Usually, when you book a ticket on a luxury riverboat, you are paying for, an agreed-upon fiction.
Right, a complete illusion.
Exactly. You're buying this curated, frictionless reality where your most pressing issue is, I don't know, whether the spa has enough towels. You expect the pristine brochure experience.
Yeah, it's a manufactured isolation. The entire architecture of a luxury cruise is literally designed to separate you, physically and psychologically, from the grit of the world you're traveling through.
Yeah,
You observe the landscape, but you don't actually have to interact with its problems.
but then you disembark into the grandest city in the world, and that pristine brochure is immediately set on fire.
Quite literally.
Quite literally. The illusion of safety evaporates in an instant, and you're standing in a civic landscape that operates like a war zone.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today we were taking you, the listener, on a journey that breaks down exactly how a peaceful vacation turns into a gritty, high-stakes political thriller.
It is a wild ride. It really is. We are unpacking the events of Session 21, which is appropriately titled Don't Rock the Boat. We're going to follow our party from their arrival in the legendary city of Waterdeep, an arrival that is violently interrupted by domestic sabotage, all the way through their forensic investigation of a bombing.
So much happens so quickly.
Oh, absolutely. We're tracing the physical evidence from splintered docks to the highest echelons of Waterdavian bureaucracy, uncovering a shadowy populist faction known as the 99. Okay, let's unpack this.
So, to understand the sheer shock of what happens in Waterdeep, we first have to examine the profound calm of the days leading up to it. Our sources detail the final leg of the journey aboard the Kyanthar Princess, this massive steam-powered Lantanese riverboat.
Right.
The party had just survived a harrowing ordeal with a Bylist cult. They were completely exhausted, and suddenly they're trapped in luxury with nothing to do but just, well, exist.
Which is its own kind of pressure cooker, honestly. When there are no cultists to fight on the promenade deck, you actually have to sit with your thoughts and talk to your traveling companions.
Yeah, and we see that play out intimately with Valessa the Dhampir. She spends her evenings drinking and dancing, projecting this really carefree attitude.
Classic Valessa.
Right, but she's actually using the downtime to cautiously rebuild bridges with her two drow sisters, Ilmrin, the artificer, and Talus, the poisoner.
Okay.
They're engaging in classic sibling bickering, but beneath the surface, they're negotiating the logistics of moving Ilmrin to the surface world permanently.
I found myself wondering about the sheer biological and cultural shock of that.
Oh, it's massive.
Moving a drow from the Underdark to the surface isn't just about packing bags. You're dealing with sunlight sensitivity, a complete upending of societal norms, and a total shift in daily survival mechanics.
Exactly. It requires a fundamental rewiring of how a person operates. I mean, in the Underdark, paranoia is a survival trait. It keeps you alive.
Yeah.
On the surface, especially in a place like Waterdeep, that exact same paranoia can paralyze you. Valessa and her sisters are trying to compress 20 years of separation and cultural divergence into, like, a few days of luxury cruising.
Meanwhile, Vongfrir, the towering Tabaxi warrior, is taking the exact opposite approach to the downtime.
Oh, she really is?
She is practically living in the ship's spa. The sources note she's making shameless, thorough use of the amenities, completely monopolizing the space, and leaving the poor pool cleaners to deal with the aftermath.
Well, physical recovery is a crucial part of an adventurer's life cycle. But for Vogfrir, this relaxation is also a period of physical and magical integration.
Right, because of what happened earlier.
Yeah, she recently underwent some intense physical transformations, and we learned that these changes have spontaneously granted her the ability to speak Druidic and Sylvan.
Which sparks this massive philosophical debate among the party.
I love this part.
Me too. Because if you wake up suddenly knowing Sylvan, it implies that language isn't just a learned cognitive skill. It can be an innate magical property of a physical form, and this naturally spirals into a debate about the speak with animals spell.
Yeah, Sianadol brings this up, questioning the actual mechanics of the magic. The core of the debate is, does the spell temporarily elevate an animal's intelligence, granting it the sapience required to hold a conversation?
Or does it just translate?
Exactly. Or does the spell act as a highly sophisticated translation matrix, converting an animal's instinctual abstract desires into words the caster can comprehend?
My assumption has always been the translation matrix.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you cast the spell on a squirrel, the squirrel doesn't suddenly understand tax law or existential dread.
Right.
The spell just takes the squirrel's fundamental broadcast like acorn, fear, tree, mate, and maps it onto the caster's linguistic framework.
But see, if it's purely a translation matrix, how do you explain animals in these worlds recalling specific visual details of a suspect or understanding complex commands?
Oh, that's a fair point.
There has to be a temporary cognitive bridge being formed. The magic doesn't just translate, it provides a framework for the animal's brain to process linear time and cause and effect in a way it normally just wouldn't.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of identity and definitions, Santal also uses this downtime to clarify their own nature as a tiefling.
Yes.
They specify that their heritage stems from Hades rather than the Hells. That's a massive cosmological distinction.
It is huge. The Hells are lawful evil. They are structured, hierarchical, totally focused on contracts and subjugation.
Very bureaucratic evil.
Exactly. But Hades, or the Grey Waste, is neutral evil.
Yeah.
It is a plane of pure apathy, gloom, and spiritual decay.
Wow.
So a tiefling with lineage from Hades isn't going to have the infernal, fiery ambition of a devilish bloodline. Their fundamental magical resonance is tied to entropy and despair. Santal clarifying their pronouns and their unique cosmological identity on this boat is a really profound moment of self-definition.
And this whole theme of identity and conceptual power leads perfectly into Talia, the satyr, charming the passengers with lore about the Feywild.
She drops some amazing lore here.
She really does. She drops a piece of information that completely recontextualizes how we think about economics. She explains that in the Feywild, names are traded like precious currency.
Because the prime material plane relies on tangible economies. You trade a physical gold coin for a physical loaf of bread.
Right.
But Fey logic operates on conceptual value. A true name in the Feywild isn't just a label. It is the absolute definition of a being. It contains your history, your essence, your constraints.
It sounds like a hyper-advanced form of cryptography.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Like if you have someone's true name, you hold their private key, you have administrative access to their reality.
Exactly. When Fey trade names, they are trading highly concentrated leverage. The rarer the name, the more power it holds, because fewer entities have defenses against it.
But think about the irony of this conversation. They are sitting on the deck of a luxury boat, sipping drinks, having this high-minded academic discussion about how names and identities are the ultimate currency.
Yeah.
And they are literally sailing directly into a city where the central conflict is driven by people weaponizing their own anonymity. The absence of a name is about to become the most dangerous thing they encounter.
The contrast is stark. On the riverboat, an identity is a commodity you protect. In Waterdeep, as the 99 demonstrate, discarding your identity is how you inflict maximum damage without consequence.
The morning arrives. Mawise is notably absent, the running joke being that she fell overboard during a drunken romp. But otherwise, the Keonthlar princess glides peacefully into Deepwater Harbor.
Such a beautiful scene.
It is. And Waterdeep is designed to intimidate you before you even step off the boat.
It really is the apex of civilization on the Sword Coast. The city climbs up the side of Mount Waterdeep. You have these white towers, golden spires catching the dawn light, massive terrace greenery. It projects absolute permanence and an unshakable authority.
The dock itself is fully dressed in the ship's purple and gold colors. There's a ceremonial welcoming platform, watch officers in crisp uniforms, and city officials wearing practiced public smiles.
Right, it's a performance.
Exactly. It is a highly choreographed piece of civic theater meant to validate the wealth of the passengers arriving.
And civic theater relies entirely on everyone following the script. The officials applaud, the passengers wave, the mooring lines are secured. The illusion is complete.
Until the platform buckles upward in a massive shockwave of fire and splintered wood.
It just shatters everything.
The physical force of the explosion throws people to the ground and violently slams the Keonthar princess against the docks. The pristine white hull is scorched black, the starboard paddle wheel is damaged, and the air instantly fills with thick, choking smoke.
The destruction of the ceremonial platform is symbolic, but the shrapnel is very, very real. As the harbor wind clears some of the smoke, the party sees it.
Yeah.
Painted in fresh, dripping black paint across a surviving section of the dock wall are just two numbers, 99.
The luxury cruise is officially over. And what I find so compelling here is that the party doesn't freeze.
No, they snap right into action.
A lot of people, even experienced adventurers, might experience a moment of cognitive dissonance when a safe zone turns into a combat zone. But they instantly pivot to triage. They become an emergency response unit.
We're looking at roughly 25 injured passengers and crew, and the party applies their specific skill sets with ruthless efficiency.
Right.
Volesa moves through the wreckage, stabilizing the most severe trauma cases, including Sylphie, an investigative reporter they know, who has a severe rib injury and heavy bleeding. They also find Becca Bitesize, the goblin artificer responsible for the voyage, wandering dazed with a head wound.
Siantel takes a more macro approach. They channel wide, sweeping waves of healing light to mend multiple minor injuries simultaneously.
We need to look closely at how radiant magic functions in a mass casualty event.
I'd love to.
Healing light isn't just knitting tissue together, it's flooding the target system with positive energy. It prevents shock, regulates heart rates, and stops hemorrhaging almost instantly. It is the ultimate stabilizing tool.
Vagrafreer takes the brute force route. She's physically hauling burning beams off pinned survivors and then applying cure wounds directly to critical injuries.
I would be on brand for her.
But Volesa pulls off a magical maneuver here that completely breaks the intended use of a spell. The docks are on fire, the wood is dry, and the flames are spreading. Volesa casts Tenser's floating disc.
Which is fundamentally a porter spell. It creates a flat, invisible, concave disc of magical force designed to carry heavy treasure out of a dungeon. It can hold up to 500 pounds.
Right. But Volesa submerges the invisible disc into the harbor, scoops up hundreds of gallons of seawater, and then literally walks this floating bowl of water across the dock to dump it on the fires.
It's so smart. Seawater weighs about 8.3 pounds per gallon, so she's moving roughly 60 gallons of water per trip. It's an improvised, high-capacity fire hose. And what makes it brilliant is that she coordinates with Vagrafreer, who casts Gust of Wind.
Which seems counterintuitive at first, because, if you blow a massive gust of wind at a fire, you usually just fan the flames and make it worse.
Exactly. Which means Vagrafreer isn't just blasting air blindly. She's using the kinetic force of the spell to suffocate smaller flames or blow the fire back onto the wood that Volesa has just drenched with seawater. It is a highly tactical, magically assisted disaster response.
But right in the middle of this intense, coordinated effort to save lives, Duke Rakath Glitterbeard marches up to them.
Oh, this guy.
People are bleeding out in the splintered wood, and the Duke is screaming at the party, demanding priority magical healing for a minor singed palm.
His presence in this scene is infuriating, but it's sociologically vital.
I'm looking at this guy demanding a magical cure for a paper cut while commoners are dying, and my initial reaction is just that he's a narcissist.
Sure.
But is there something deeper culturally here regarding how nobles view healing magic in Waterdeep?
Definitely. It's not just personal narcissism, it's systemic entitlement. In a city governed by extreme wealth, magic is a commodity.
Right.
Duke Glitterbeard views magical triage not as a medical necessity based on the severity of injury, but as a class-based service he is prepaid for simply by existing as a noble. He genuinely cannot comprehend a scenario where a dock worker's ruptured artery takes precedence over his own discomfort.
Volesa just wordlessly hands him a plain, non-magical linen bandage.
That is so good.
Santal firmly dismisses him, and the Duke actually stomps off in a huff.
By refusing to cater to that hierarchy, the party unknowingly aligns themselves with the exact ideological grievances of the people who planted the bomb. The 99 are bombing the docks because of men like the Duke.
And while the Duke is throwing his tantrum, Santal spots an anomaly in the crowd. Amidst the screaming, running, and panic, there is a figure in a brown tunic and a bandana calmly slipping away from the blast zone, heading north toward the dock ward.
Because in a panic scenario, stillness or purposeful, steady movement is the loudest thing in the room to a trained eye.
Exactly.
Santhal recognizes that this person's heart rate isn't elevated by fear, it's elevated by execution.
Santal tries to track the suspect from Dock Street, but the figure vanishes near Net Street, devolving into the dense, chaotic, urban fabric of the city.
The bomber knows the terrain. They aren't running blindly, they're taking a pre-planned exfiltration route.
By this time, the City Watch arrives, and we are introduced to two investigators who represent the dual nature of Waterdeep's law enforcement, Inspector Barnabas Blastwind and Captain Histus Stagit.
Blastwind is shorter, highly inquisitive, and deeply analytical. He approaches the scene like a puzzle.
Okay.
Stagit is tall, rigid, and rigidly formal. He represents the physical authority of the Watch.
They don't treat the party as suspects, they recruit them. The Watch is overwhelmed. Blastwind and Stagit explain that this bombing isn't an isolated incident. A group calling themselves the 99 has been leaving aggressive anti-wealth graffiti and tally marks all over the city for the past 10 days, claiming to count the dead.
And they recovered a note from the blast site. a singed piece of paper containing a poetic message that expressed deep contempt for the Cathar princess, referring to the wealthy passengers as golden gods.
Wow.
This explicitly frames the bombing as targeted political sabotage.
Captain Brackwater of the riverboat is furious. She doubles the watch's bounty out of her own pocket. But Captain Stagett issues a very specific parameter. He wants the suspects taken alive.
Stagett is insisting on the rule of law. He knows that if adventurers start executing political dissidents in the Straits, it turns the 99 into martyrs.
Right.
He needs a trial. He needs the system to publicly process the crime to maintain the illusion of order.
Right as the party is about to secure the blast zone and begin their forensics, Sarisha Immervel, a merchant who traveled with them, pulls Valessa aside.
The timing on this is crazy.
It really is. She says she's heading to the Taiyan embassy to renew her business license, hands Valessa a sending stone, and then drops this casual, horrifying piece of intelligence. Sarisha warns them that the Taiyan embassy is using a legal loophole involving the subterranean city of Skullport to run a slave trade.
It's a staggering geopolitical revelation delivered as, small talk.
Wait, if the Taiyan embassy is actively running a slave trade and Waterdeep vehemently outlaws slavery, how does a loophole actually bypass Waterdavian law? How does Skullport function legally?
So Skullport is located deep beneath Waterdeep, in the cavern system known as Undermountain.
Okay.
The legal loophole relies on the limits of jurisdiction. The masked lords of Waterdeep claim authority over the surface and the immediate sewer systems, but they unofficially refuse to police the deep underground because it would require a massive standing military presence to hold territory against the horrors of Undermountain.
That makes sense.
Therefore, foreign powers like Thay can establish operations in Skullport that are technically outside Waterdeep's legal boundaries, yet physically directly beneath the city's markets.
But why does Sarisha drop this intelligence right now? I mean, the party is up to their necks investigating a domestic bombing. Is she trying to distract them, or does she know something about the 99's supply chain?
Sarisha deals in leverage. By giving them a sending stone and this specific piece of intelligence, she is establishing a back channel. She is telling the party, you are investigating a surface-level crime, but the real rot of this city is subterranean.
Oh, wow.
It frames their entire investigation. It warns them that in Waterdeep, laws are just suggestions if you have enough money and the right geography.
Keeping that systemic corruption in mind, Valessa and Siantal commandeer a small rowboat and paddle out into the harbor to examine the actual epicenter of the explosion.
Forensic analysis in a magical world is incredibly complex because you have to rule out both mundane chemistry and arcane manipulation.
Siantal searches the splintered wood and finds small iron fragments embedded in the debris. They piece the fragments together and realize this was a shell casing.
Valessa, leveraging her expertise as an artificer, casts guidance on herself.
Which is super helpful.
Yeah, guidance is a minor divination spell, but mechanically, it aligns the caster's intuition with the weave of magic, allowing them to make deductive leaps they might otherwise miss. She examines the blast pattern and identifies the device as a failed smoke powder-shaped charge.
Okay, I need to understand the failure here. A shaped charge is supposed to direct explosive energy in a specific direction, like a cone of force aimed directly at the hull of the ship.
Yes.
But Melissa realizes it exploded in a full 360-degree radius. Why did it fail?
Well, smoke powder is volatile. It undergoes deflagration rapid burning rather than true detonation.
Oh, I see.
To create a shaped charge with smoke powder, the casing must be incredibly strong on all sides except the intended exit point, forcing the expanding gases out of the weak point at hypervelocity. The iron casing the bomber used was utilitarian. It yielded and fractured before the internal pressure could reach the necessary threshold to direct the blast.
So it just blew out everywhere.
Right. The pressure wave took the path of least resistance, which was everywhere.
Valessa notes that this lack of precision means it wasn't built by a Gondian. The followers of Gond treat mechanics and engineering as a religious practice. Their metalwork is flawless. This bomb was built by someone capable, but self-taught.
It reveals the profile of the bomber. They have access to regulated materials like smoke powder, but they lack institutional training, and they are highly premeditated.
Yeah.
Santal finds that the wooden struts supporting the boarding ramp were intentionally sawed halfway through prior to the explosion.
They also find a massive piece of pitch-soaked, fire-retardant canvas secured beneath the decking. The bomber tried to use it as a backstop to force the explosion upward.
The canvas is the linchpin of the investigation. Iron fragments and smoke powder are hard to trace, But a massive piece of specifically treated canvas requires a specialized manufacturer.
This transitions the investigation from physical forensics to social footwork. They leave the harbor and head into the dock ward to trace the canvas. And the dock ward is a completely different world from the pristine palace wards. It smells of salt, sweat, and rotting fish. And when the party starts asking questions, they hit a solid wall of silence.
The dock workers take one look at this heavily armed, well-dressed party who just stepped off the luxury cruise ship, and they absolutely refuse to cooperate. The workers view the party as agents of the elite.
But they manage to pry a few details loose. A child tells them that the 99 occasionally leaves food like apples, bread, and small paper-wrapped copper coins for the poor. The child mentions a masked man who warned the kids to run home before the watch arrived.
An older fishmonger adds context. He explains that the 99 usually targets nobles who cheat their laborers, or landlords who evict families. They paint their graffiti on the properties of the corrupt.
The 99 aren't just outlaws, they operate like a localized pressure valve for a boiling civic boiler. They cause property damage, but they release the tension of the working class. The fishmonger notes that usually the populace cheers on the 99 strike, but today is different.
The bombing of a public dock crossed a critical line. They moved from targeted property damage to mass casualties.
Right.
Even so, one laborer tells the party straight to their face that while he doesn't condone the bombing, he resents the Keonthar princess. He views it as an obscene monument to wealth that mocks the poverty of the docks.
This completely complicates the party's mandate. They were hired by the City Watch to hunt down terrorists, but the deeper they dig, the more they realize that arresting the bomb maker won't fix the gross inequality that manufactured the bomber in the first place.
It forces the party to act as enforcers for a system they are beginning to realize is deeply diseased. But the immediate threat of more bombs keeps them moving.
They take the fire-retardant canvas to Aurora's Realms shop on a vibrant street known locally as Slut Street. A clerk identifies the material as high-quality sailcloth, which points them directly to a master sailmaker named Rennet Bringlehook, who runs a chandlery on Dock Street.
And when they enter the chandlery, we get a bizarre, chaotic moment of character expression that somehow breaks the tension.
It's so funny. Valessa buys a small fishing net from Rennet, who is this grumpy, hardened old tradesman. And right in front of him, she casts prestidigitation to magically weave and tailor this fishing net into a highly revealing dress.
Just casually.
Yes. She puts it on and claims it honors Waterdeep's maritime heritage. Rennet is staring at her like she has lost her mind.
Because prestidigitation is a minor trick. It can clean or soil items or change their color for an hour. Using it to temporarily alter the structural drape of a fishing net into haute couture is a ridiculous, purely impulsive use of magic. Vugvir just rolls her eyes and dismisses it as rags.
But Vugfrier's pragmatism is what actually saves the interaction. While Valessa is playing fashion designer, Vugfrier engages Rennet in a highly technical, earnest conversation about fishing tackle, line tension, and sea currents.
It's a brilliant moment of connection. Vugfrir strips away the intimidation factor of the heavily armed adventurer and speaks to him as a fellow laborer.
Right.
Shared working-class knowledge bridges the gap that Valessa's magic only widened.
Because of that connection, Rennet opens up. He identifies the canvas as his own work. He remembers the specific sale. He sold the canvas, along with 20 feet of specialized water-resistant wick, which is designed to stay lit in heavy harbor fog to a young human woman.
And she didn't pay with coins. Carrying large amounts of gold in the dock ward makes you a target. She paid with a financial voucher drawn from something called the Osvaldo Memorial Fund.
Santal instantly recognizes the significance of a paper trail and pays Rennet 10 gold pieces to hand over the voucher as evidence. This piece of paper is the tether. It connects the grime and desperation of the dock ward to the pristine, bureaucratic heights of the city.
To trace the voucher, the party must travel to the Palace of Waterdeep. The palace sits at the base of Mount Waterdeep, and to reach the public administration offices, citizens are forced to climb a massive, punishing staircase.
The architecture itself is hostile. It's designed to exhaust the petitioner so that by the time they reach a clerk, they are too tired to argue.
Oh, 100%.
But our party completely circumvents the intended psychological effect.
Valessa summons her magical shadow sword, steps onto it, and uses it as a hoverboard to glide up the stairs.
Which is amazing.
Kalia casts Fly to avoid walking on her hooves, and Vantreor bounds up the steps 3 at a time, loudly mocking the others for relying on magic.
At the top of the stairs, Shane rejoins the group. He missed the explosion but is quickly brought up to speed. They enter the Grand Hall, which is this echoing, cavernous center of civic bureaucracy. There are clerks rushing everywhere, massive stacks of petitions, and the constant hum of government friction.
Siontal, who actually has a background in civic administration, takes one look at the chaos and tries to dismiss the rest of the party, insisting they can navigate the bureaucracy alone.
Which doesn't go over well.
This naturally offends the people who just hoverboarded up a mountain.
They are intercepted by head clerk Tamsin Greel. Tamsin takes one look at Valessa in her magical fishing net dress and Vogfree in her battered armor, and dryly notes that their attire doesn't exactly meet the dress code of a government facility.
Typical bureaucracy.
Yeah, but Tamsin points them toward Joran Thale, a visibly exhausted clerk who specifically handles the Osvaldo Memorial Fund.
And when Joran pulls the ledgers, the scale of the operation becomes terrifying.
Joran explains that the Osvaldo Memorial Fund was established anonymously 4 years ago. The initial singular deposit was 250,000 gold pieces.
We need to contextualize that number mechanically. In the economy of the Sword Coast, a highly skilled laborer earns perhaps 1 or 2 gold pieces a day.
Right.
A comfortable middle-class existence costs maybe 100 gold a year.
So 250,000 gold coins, physically way over 5,000 pounds. You don't just walk into a bank with that. It requires wagons, armed guards, and institutional cooperation.
It is the gross domestic product of a small sovereign territory, just sitting in a single municipal account. And the account is named after Osvaldo Castellanter.
The Castellanters are one of the most powerful, unimaginably wealthy, noble families in Waterdeep. The problem is, according to the public record, Osvaldo Castellanter, their eldest son, is currently alive and studying abroad.
Joran admits this is a massive red flag. Setting up a $250,000 gold memorial fund for a living heir implies one of two things.
Okay, what are they?
Either it is an elaborate public insult directed at the family, or it is a front for an operation that requires massive liquidity without accountability.
The mechanics of the fund are fascinating. It operates like a completely anonymous corporate checking account. Whoever holds a specific magically forged wax seal bearing an intricate letter O can issue paper vouchers to pay for goods and services.
Right.
The city honors the voucher, pays the merchant, and deducts it from the 250,000 gold reserve.
The cryptographic security of a magical wax seal is nearly unbreakable. Standard wax can be copied, but a magical seal likely incorporates arcane signatures, a specific heat resonance, a micro-illusion embedded in the wax, or a faint aura of abjuration magic that municipal clerks are trained to verify with a wand.
The account sat dormant for over 3 years, and then 6 months ago, the withdrawals started. Small, mundane payouts. Labor payments to Della Marthin of the High Tide crew. The canvas and wick purchased from Rennet Brindlehook.
And something else, too.
Yes, and multiple recurring meal and lodging vouchers redeemed at a high-end establishment called the Blushing Mermaid.
Siontal identifies the systemic flaw immediately. The City of Waterdeep's own bureaucratic infrastructure is being used as a municipal money laundering machine. The bomber doesn't have to carry gold, they just write a voucher, and the city government unknowingly finances domestic terrorism.
Before they leave the clerk's desk, Valessa does something incredibly subtle but kind. She casts prestidigitation not to make a dress, but to gently lift the deep, permanent ink stains out of Joran's exhausted hands.
It's a quiet acknowledgement of the human toll of bureaucracy. But that quiet moment is immediately shattered when they step away from the desk and Shane drops a bombshell.
He really does. Shane admits to the party that in his life as a rogue and a criminal fixer, he operates under several aliases. One of his primary aliases is Victoro Castellanter.
Victoro is the name of the patriarch of the Castellanter family. Shane claiming to use that name as an alias is an astronomical coincidence or a catastrophic liability.
I mean, my mind is spinning with the implications. If Osvaldo is secretly dead, is this fund a ransom payout? If Osvaldo is alive, is he funding a working-class rebellion against his own parents? Or is Shane's use of the alias about to drag him directly into the crosshairs of whatever noble faction is actually funding the 99?
The paranoia is justified. The financial trail proves that the violence on the docks is being funded from the highest peaks of society. The party realizes they need to investigate the only physical location consistently named in the ledgers, the Blushing Mermaid.
They arrive at the Blushing Mermaid in the evening, and it is immediately apparent that this isn't a standard tavern. It is an elite, highly secretive fest hall built around a massive heated central pool.
The economics of the place dictate its clientele. Rooms are 3 gold pieces a night. That is premium pricing designed to filter out the general public.
The staff reflects the price tag. The servers gliding through the water are literal merfolk. The floor staff operating the tables all wear identical iron masks, stripping away their individual identities to provide completely anonymous service.
It's an environment engineered for absolute discretion. Santal, recognizing that they are stepping into a politically sensitive arena, first dispatches a courier to the Durenbold villa.
Smart.
They pay a full gold coin to arrange a meeting regarding a separate matter, ensuring their aristocratic connections are active before they start causing trouble.
Then Siantal and Shane ask to speak with the management regarding the Oswaldo vouchers. They are introduced to Lady Alethine Moonstar.
The sources describe her as unearthly. She descends the staircase with a gliding grace, her feet seemingly not making contact with the floor. She projects immense, quiet power.
Siantal and Shane ask her who is redeeming the Oswaldo vouchers at her establishment. Lady Moonstar issues a polite, absolute refusal. She states that the entire business model of the Blushing Mermaid relies on guest anonymity, and she will not compromise that for anyone.
She is acting as the ultimate gatekeeper. In a city built on secrets, a business that guarantees privacy is more secure than a bank vault.
Shane decides to play hardball. He leans in and essentially threatens her. He tells her that if she doesn't cooperate, the people redeeming those vouchers might bring explosive trouble, literal bombs to her front door.
And how does she react?
She does not even blink. She is completely immune to intimidation.
Because intimidation only works if the target believes you have more power than they do. Lady Moonstar clearly believes she is untouchable.
While Shane is failing to threaten the manager, Valessa and Talia take the exact opposite approach. They literally cannonball into the heated central pool.
It's a brilliant tactical pivot. If the management won't talk, you talk to the floor staff.
Valessa casts water breathing on Talia so they can lounge comfortably at the bottom of the pool. They strike up a conversation with the three mermaid servers, Nessa, who is initially furious about the splash, Varroa, who is quiet and watchful, and Leora, who is bubbly and eager to gossip.
We get a fascinating mechanical detail here. The mermaids carry magical pouches, essentially waterproof bags of holding to transport orders, and accept payments underwater without ruining the paper vouchers or rusting the coins.
It's those little logistical details that make the world feel real. While Valessa and Talia are making friends with the mermaids, Shane decides he isn't done with Lady Moonstar. As she walks away from their failed negotiation, Talia quietly casts invisibility on Shane.
Shane shifts into full rogue infiltration mode. He stealthily tails Lady Moonstar up the stairs and into the restricted upper hallways of the fest hall.
He's tracking her, matching her footsteps, watching her pass several windows in sequence. He thinks he's a ghost. And then Lady Moonstar simply vanishes. She doesn't duck into a room, she just ceases to be in the hallway.
Shane is left standing there, invisible, utterly silent, trying to calculate where she went.
And then the air in front of him shimmers. A spectral face materializes literally 2 inches from his own invisible face.
It's a targeted magical projection. The spectral face looks right at him, whispers, "Mind my anonymity," and then dissolves into mist.
It's like thinking you're successfully tailing a suspect through a dark alley, only to realize you've been walking on a treadmill under a spotlight the whole time.
That's a terrifying thought.
She didn't just escape him, she let him know he was never a threat.
It demonstrates that Lady Moonstar commands high-level abjuration and divination magic. Invisibility bends light, but it doesn't mask thermal signatures, arcane displacement, or physical mass. Lady Moonstar likely has the entire building warded with true sight or sophisticated alarm triggers. Shane was outclassed the moment he stepped on the stairs.
Which leaves the party in a highly precarious position as the night winds down. Valessa's sisters, Ilmrin and Talus, come down to the pool, announcing they've secured room 211. The family settles in, finding comfort in each other's presence.
But the psychological tension of the environment is suffocating. They are sleeping in 3 goldenite beds, surrounded by iron-masked staff, in the exact building where the terrorist slush fund is being actively spent.
The 99 are still out there. They have 250,000 gold pieces to burn. They know how to build bombs. And the party is sleeping under the roof of a proprietress who clearly has the magical capability to erase them if they become a liability to her brand.
They pulled a single bloody thread on the splintered docks, and it has led them straight into a labyrinth of noble houses, shell corporations, and weaponized anonymity.
Let's pull the lens back and look at the sheer distance they traveled in a single day. They started the morning having a philosophical debate about how fey names and identities are traded as currency.
Wait.
Hours later, they are performing magical triage on a burning dock, tracing the failure points of a smoke powder-shaped charge. They bypass the silence of the working class by talking about fishing, uncover a massive municipal money laundering operation in the palace, and end the night getting magically outmaneuvered by an untouchable elite.
The stakes have fundamentally shifted. They aren't just fighting monsters in a dungeon anymore. They're fighting systemic inequality and anonymous wealth. And you cannot stab a shell corporation.
Which brings us to a final, deeply unsettling theory for you to ponder. Throughout this investigation, the working assumption, based on the graffiti and the targets, is that the 99 is a grassroots populist movement.
Sure, that's the obvious angle.
Maybe they are funded by a sympathetic noble, or maybe they stole the Castle Lantern Fund, but look at the mechanics of the city.
Waterdeep is ruled by the Masked Lords, a political body defined by subterfuge and shifting alliances.
What if the 99 aren't a grassroots movement at all? What if a rival noble faction is intentionally using the Castle Lantern name and this massive 250,000 gold fund to orchestrate these bombings as a highly coordinated false flag operation?
That would be sinister.
What if the elite are weaponizing the genuine, justified anger of the lower classes, tricking them into building the bombs and taking the fall, all just to destroy the properties and political standing of their high society rivals? In a city that treats people like commodities, the working class might just be the cheap ammunition loaded into a very expensive political gun.
If the bombers believe they are fighting for their freedom, but are actually just pawns in a boardroom dispute, it represents a level of systemic cruelty that far exceeds a simple explosive device.
That is the reality of Waterdeep. The illusion of safety is just the first casualty. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives handed down by the Golden Gods. And remember, sometimes the pristine resort brochure is just paper waiting for a spark. We'll see you next time.